Listen carefully. I have an urgent and sacred message to share today, and I say this without hesitation. This message is only for God's chosen ones. If you are not walking the divine path, if your heart is not aligned with God, you will not feel drawn to this video, and you should not continue watching. But if you are still here, it is because God Himself allowed this message to reach you at the exact moment you needed it most. Nothing about this is random. Chosen one, what you are about to hear is not entertainment. It is confirmation. It is alignment. It is divine timing unfolding before your eyes. The stars you've been noticing are not coincidence. Those patterns in the heavens are signals, quiet, intentional messages placed there for you by God. And today, He wants you to understand why your spirit has been paying attention. I need you to stay with me until the very end, because clarity is coming, peace is coming, and something you've been silently questioning in your heart is about to make sense in a way it never has before. Before we continue, chosen ones, give a like to this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, turn on the bell icon so you don't miss what God is revealing here, and share this message with other chosen ones. And comment 777 in the comments to declare that you are aligned, awake, and ready for the mission God has placed on your life.
Why God uses the heavens to speak to the chosen. Chosen one, let me slow this down and speak to you calmly now. There is a reason God often speaks through the heavens, and there is a reason you are sensitive to it. This is not mystical confusion. This is ancient truth. Long before distractions, noise, and modern chaos, God used the sky as a canvas. The heavens were never meant to be worshipped. They were meant to communicate. Scripture itself tells us that the heavens declare the glory of God. That is not poetry. That is instruction. God speaks in ways that bypass human systems and human control. The sky cannot be edited. The stars cannot be manipulated by opinion. When God wants to speak clearly, He speaks from places untouched by man's interference. That is why the heavens have always been one of His chosen languages. Now listen closely. God does not speak to everyone the same way. Some people hear Him through circumstances, some through pain, some through correction. But chosen ones, those marked for purpose, are often spoken to through patterns, repetition, alignment, order, the kind of signals that require discernment, not panic. You were not meant to fear the sky. You were meant to read it with spiritual maturity. I want to correct something gently but firmly. What God is doing has nothing to do with astrology. Astrology removes God from the equation and replaces Him with fate. God never hands His authority to stars. He uses them as markers, like road signs on a long journey. You don't worship the sign. You read it so you don't get lost. And here is why this matters for your peace of mind. Many chosen ones feel confused because they notice things others don't. They see patterns. They sense timing shifts. They feel internal nudges that don't always come with words. And instead of understanding this sensitivity as a gift, they begin to question themselves. They wonder if they are overthinking. They wonder if something is wrong with them. Nothing is wrong with you. God speaks through the heavens because the heavens operate in order. Stars do not rush. They do not collide randomly. They move in obedience. That is important, because obedience is the language God speaks fluently. When He wants to remind you that your life also has order, even when it feels chaotic, He points you upward. Chosen one, God is not trying to scare you. He is trying to steady you. The reason these signs come during seasons of transition is because your spirit is learning to trust God beyond what you can control. You cannot command the stars, you can only observe them, and that is exactly the posture God wants you in right now. Watchful, calm, trusting. Let me say this clearly so your heart can rest. God never sends signs to confuse His chosen ones. Confusion does not come from Him. When confusion appears, it usually means fear has stepped in and distorted the message. The heavens speak in peace. If what you feel is anxiety, then the message has been misinterpreted, not wrongly sent. God uses the heavens because they remind you that your life is part of something bigger. When you look up, your problems shrink. Your timelines soften. Your urgency slows down. That is not accidental. That is therapy. Divine therapy. You see, chosen ones often carry heavy mental weight. Responsibility before reward. Awareness before relief. God knows this. That is why he sometimes pulls your attention away from the ground-level noise and lifts your gaze. When you look at the stars, your nervous system quiets. Your breath deepens. Your thoughts slow. That is not coincidence. That is design. And here is something only the chosen truly understand. God does not always speak in sentences. Sometimes he speaks in atmosphere. Sometimes he speaks through stillness. Sometimes he speaks through a quiet knowing that settles in your chest without explanation. The heavens are perfect for that kind of communication. If God spoke loudly every time, faith would not grow. Dependency would. Chosen one, you are not being led into obsession. You are being led into awareness. There is a difference. Obsession seeks control. Awareness seeks alignment. God is aligning you. This is also why not everyone sees what you see. If everyone could read the signs, then discernment would not be special. Chosen ones are trained through life experiences to recognize patterns. Pain sharpens perception. Waiting strengthens vision. Isolation refines hearing. You did not earn this sensitivity by accident. You were prepared for it. And let me ease another fear you may not have spoken out loud. Seeing signs does not mean something bad is coming. That mindset comes from trauma, not truth. God warns his chosen ones not to frighten them, but to prepare them. Preparation brings peace, not panic. The heavens remind you that God keeps promises over long periods of time. Stars shine for centuries. Some promises take time. That does not mean they are forgotten. It means they are stable. So when God uses the heavens to speak to you, he is not asking you to decode a mystery. He is inviting you to rest in assurance. He is saying, I am still in control. I am still ahead of you. I am still ordering your steps. Let this settle your mind now. You are not lost. You are not late. You are not imagining this. God speaks through the heavens because they reflect his nature. Faithful, ordered, patient, and unchanging. And chosen one, that is exactly what he is shaping inside of you right now. Why you have been noticing star patterns more than others. Chosen one, I want you to hear this slowly, without rushing your thoughts. There is a reason you notice what others overlook. There is a reason your eyes lift upward while others remain distracted by what is right in front of them. And no, it is not because you are imagining things. It is because your awareness has been sharpened by God. Not everyone is meant to see the same way. If they were, discernment would have no value. God does not awaken everyone at the same time, and he does not speak to everyone at the same depth. Some people are called to function, others are called to understand. You belong to the second group. Chosen ones are observers by nature. Life has trained you to read between lines, to sense shifts before they happen, to feel changes in atmosphere long before words are spoken. This did not come from comfort. It came from experience, from disappointment, from waiting, from learning to be still when answers did not come quickly. That kind of inner stillness makes the outer world clearer. This is why you notice star patterns more than others. Your mind is quieter than it used to be. Your spirit is more alert. And when noise reduces, signals become visible. Let me say something that may settle you deeply. Awareness always increases before transition. Always. When God is preparing to move you into a new season, he sharpens your perception first. He does not push you forward blindly. He teaches you to recognize alignment. The heavens are part of that alignment. Others may look at the sky and see nothing special. You look and feel something shift inside you. That is because your spirit is listening, not just your eyes. Chosen ones do not see with curiosity alone. They see with intuition shaped by faith. You are not seeking signs. They are meeting you where you are. Another reason you notice these patterns is because your inner world has been reorganized. Many chosen ones go through seasons where old beliefs fall away, old attachments loosen, old fears lose their grip. When that happens, the mind becomes less cluttered. And when the mind becomes less cluttered, subtle things become noticeable. This is why you may have started noticing patterns during a time of emotional exhaustion, solitude, or deep reflection. God often speaks more clearly when you are stripped of distractions, not because He wants you tired, but because He wants you attentive. You may have asked yourself, why don't others see this? And the answer is simple: they are not supposed to, at least not yet. Revelation is weight. Not everyone can carry it responsibly. Some would misuse it, some would fear it, some would turn it into ego. God protects His messages by limiting who recognizes them. You noticing patterns does not make you superior, it makes you accountable. Let that humble you, not inflate you. Chosen ones often carry a quiet sense of responsibility they cannot fully explain. You feel like your life matters beyond just survival. You feel watched over, guided, redirected, even corrected at times. That awareness creates a natural attentiveness to signs. You are not obsessed. You are aligned. There is also something important happening internally when you look at the stars. Your nervous system calms, your breathing slows, your thoughts soften. This is not accidental. God knows the mental weight you carry. He knows how often you overthink, how deeply you feel, how easily you absorb the emotional atmosphere around you. Looking at the heavens grounds you. It reminds your body that not everything needs to be solved right now, that not everything depends on your effort, that God's order existed before your struggle and will remain after it. This is therapy for the chosen mind. You have also been noticing patterns because you are learning trust. Early in life, many chosen ones rely on logic because chaos made faith feel risky. But as you heal, you begin to trust God beyond explanation. Patterns appear not to be analyzed, but to be acknowledged. You don't need to label everything. You simply recognize presence. And let me clear another quiet fear. Noticing patterns does not mean you are responsible for interpreting them perfectly. That burden is not yours. God does not expect you to decode the universe. He expects you to remain faithful, grounded, and obedient in what you already know. If He wants to give clarity, He will. Until then, peace is enough. You may have noticed that these patterns appear during moments of decision, fatigue, or emotional vulnerability. That is because God often reassures before He requires movement. He steadies you before He stretches you. The sign is not pressure, it is reassurance. Chosen one, you are not being pulled into mystery, you are being pulled into trust. And here is something many do not talk about. Chosen ones often feel lonely even when surrounded by people, not because they are ungrateful, but because their inner world is deeper. When you look at the stars, that loneliness softens. You feel connected to something eternal, something stable, something that does not abandon you. That connection is intentional. God uses the heavens to remind you that you are never as alone as you feel, that there is structure beyond chaos, that timing exists beyond impatience, that your life is not drifting, it is being guided. So when you notice star patterns more than others, do not question your sanity. Question your readiness. Something in you has matured enough to notice what was always there. You are not early. You are not late. You are exactly where awareness meets assignment. And chosen one, the fact that you are noticing now tells me something important. You are closer to alignment than you realize. Chosen one, let me add this final layer gently, because it matters more than you think. Another reason you are noticing star patterns now is because your inner resistance is fading. Earlier in life, survival demanded your attention. You were busy protecting yourself, proving yourself, holding things together. In those seasons, your eyes were forced downward. You looked at the ground because you had to. You looked at people. You looked at outcomes. You looked at problems. There was no space to look up. But now, something has softened inside you. You are no longer in constant fight mode. Your spirit has learned how to exhale, and when the soul exhales, vision expands. You begin to see beyond urgency, beyond fear, beyond control. That is when God introduces subtle confirmation instead of loud correction. You are also noticing patterns because you are learning patience. The chosen ones who rush miss signs. The chosen ones who listen receive them. God does not rush revelation. He reveals it to those who have learned how to wait without collapsing emotionally. And here is the reassurance I want you to carry with you. Noticing does not mean you must act immediately. Sometimes God allows you to see simply so you can rest, so you can trust, so you can stop asking, "Am I forgotten?" The answer is no. You are remembered, you are seen, and you are being guided quietly, carefully, and deliberately, exactly the way a chosen one should be. The spiritual meaning behind repeating star patterns. Chosen one, I want you to settle your mind before we go deeper. Repetition is not randomness. In the spiritual realm, repetition is confirmation. When God allows you to notice the same patterns again and again, He is not teasing you. He is steadying you. He is saying, pay attention, but do not panic. There is wisdom in repetition, and there is peace in understanding it correctly. God does not shout through chaos. He speaks through order. Repeating star patterns are not messages of urgency, but messages of alignment. They appear when your life is being repositioned quietly, often before you consciously realize it. God always works inward before He works outward. The sign comes before the shift. Let me say this clearly, so your heart can relax. Repetition does not mean something is about to go wrong. That belief comes from trauma, not truth. In God's language, repetition means stability. It means something is being established, not disrupted. Think about how God works in cycles. Day follows night. Seasons follow seasons. The stars themselves move in faithful paths that do not change impulsively. When God allows you to notice repeating patterns in the heavens, He is reminding you that your life also follows a divine rhythm, even when it feels uncertain. Chosen ones often struggle with timing. You want to move, but you also want reassurance. Repeating signs are not instructions to act. They are invitations to trust. God repeats what matters so you can stop doubting it. Many chosen ones misinterpret repetition because they assume every sign requires interpretation. That is not true. Sometimes the meaning is simpler than your mind wants it to be. Sometimes God is just saying, I am here. I am watching. I have not changed my mind about you. Repetition anchors the soul. There is also something deeply therapeutic about repetition. Your nervous system learns safety through consistency. When God repeats a sign, He is calming the parts of you that learned unpredictability early in life. He is teaching your body what reliability feels like. This is healing on a level words cannot reach. Let me correct another misunderstanding. Repeating star patterns are not prophecies of dates or events. God does not train His chosen ones to chase timelines. He trains them to cultivate faithfulness. The heavens are not a schedule, they are a reassurance. When you see the same pattern, the same alignment, the same arrangement again, God is saying, stay where you are, continue what you are doing, you are not off course. That is why repeating signs often appear during waiting seasons. Waiting is uncomfortable for the chosen mind. You are wired to move with purpose. But waiting is not stagnation. Waiting is strengthening roots. Repetition keeps you grounded, so impatience does not pull you ahead of God. Chosen one, there is no anxiety in God's repetition. Anxiety comes when the human mind tries to force meaning instead of receiving peace. Another spiritual truth you need to hear is this. God uses repetition when He wants to reprogram belief. Many chosen ones carry deep doubts planted by disappointment. Even when God speaks once, those doubts whisper louder. So God speaks again and again, not because He is unsure, but because He is kind. Every repetition weakens fear. There is also a layer of obedience here. Stars obey without questioning. They do not resist their position. They do not compare paths. They simply move as assigned. When God allows you to notice repeating patterns, He is inviting you to reflect on your own obedience, not in guilt, but in alignment. Ask yourself gently, not critically, where am I being called to remain steady instead of restless? Where am I being asked to trust instead of control? Repetition is often a sign that God is asking for endurance, not action. Let me speak directly to something many chosen ones feel but rarely admit. Repeating signs can trigger overthinking. You start asking, what if I miss something? What if I misunderstand? What if I do nothing and something was required? That fear is understandable, but it is unnecessary. God does not play games with His chosen ones. If action is required, He will make it clear through conviction, not confusion. Repetition without clarity is an invitation to rest, not rush. This is where spiritual maturity comes in. Immature faith seeks constant stimulation. Mature faith recognizes reassurance and remains still. Repeating star patterns also symbolize completion. God often repeats something when a lesson has been learned but not yet trusted. You may already know the truth intellectually, but your emotions are catching up. Repetition helps the heart accept what the mind already understands. Chosen one, your healing is not behind schedule. It is unfolding exactly as needed. Another meaning behind repetition is protection. When God wants to keep you from forcing doors, He anchors you with reassurance. He keeps your eyes lifted so you don't move prematurely. Repetition slows impulsive behavior. It replaces urgency with wisdom. That is why many chosen ones notice repeating patterns during moments when they feel tempted to rush decisions. God is not saying no, He is saying not yet. The heavens repeat themselves because God is faithful. When He repeats a sign, He is reflecting His own nature back to you. Steady, reliable, unchanging. That is the character He is building in you. And here is the deepest layer. Repetition is relational. God repeats Himself with those He walks closely with. He does not repeat Himself to impress. He repeats Himself to reassure, to say, "You are still with me." Let this truth settle in your chest. You are not being warned. You are being accompanied. Chosen one, when you see repeating star patterns, do not search for hidden messages. Receive the visible one. God is consistent. God is present. God is aligning your path quietly, lovingly, and without pressure. And that consistency you see above is the same consistency He is establishing within you. Chosen one, let me add one more layer so your spirit can fully rest. Repeating star patterns also appear when God is closing an inner cycle. Not always an external one, but an internal one. Old fears, old identities, old questions that once controlled you are losing their authority. And when something ends quietly, God often marks it gently, not with noise, but with reassurance. You may notice that the repetition feels familiar rather than startling. That is because familiarity is a sign of safety. God is teaching your soul that consistency exists, that trust is not misplaced, that stability is not an illusion. For a chosen one who has lived through unpredictability, this is deep healing. Repetition also teaches you how to stop searching for proof and start living in faith. When God repeats a sign, He is not asking you to analyze it further. He is asking you to believe without tension, to move through your days without constantly checking if you are still guided. You are. And here is the final reassurance. If God repeats something in your awareness, it means He is not finished with you, but He is satisfied with your direction. That is peace, not pressure. That is alignment, not urgency. And chosen one, that kind of confirmation is a gift only a few ever recognize. What God is preparing you for right now. Chosen one, this is where I need you to listen with your heart, not just your mind. Because preparation does not always feel like progress. In fact, most of the time, preparation feels like delay, confusion, or even loss. And that is why many people quit too early. But you are still here. That alone tells me something about what God is doing in you right now. God never prepares lightly for heavy assignments. What you are experiencing in this season is not punishment. It is conditioning. When God prepares a chosen one, He works from the inside out. Before He changes your environment, He strengthens your discernment. Before He increases your influence, He deepens your humility. Before He entrusts you with others, He teaches you how to stand alone without breaking. That is what is happening now. You may feel like things have slowed down, like doors that once seemed open are now quiet, like your energy has shifted inward. That is not regression. That is refinement. God often pulls His chosen ones inward before He sends them outward with clarity. Preparation feels uncomfortable because it strips illusion. God is removing false urgency from you, the kind that says you must rush or you will miss your moment. That voice is not from Him. God does not rush His vessels. He steadies them. He grounds them. He teaches them how to move without panic. Right now, God is preparing you to carry responsibility without resentment. Many people want blessing, but are not prepared for the weight that comes with it. Visibility, accountability, expectation. God will not place that on a soul that has not learned how to rest in Him. That is why your peace is being trained. You may notice that certain desires have softened. Things you once chased no longer excite you the same way. That is not loss of passion. That is purification of motive. God is aligning your wants with His will, so that when provision comes, it does not corrupt you. This season may feel lonely, and that is one of the hardest parts for chosen ones to accept. Isolation is not abandonment. It is insulation. God separates what He is protecting. When too many voices surround you, clarity gets diluted. God quiets your environment so you can hear Him without distortion. And let me speak to the fatigue you may be carrying, the tiredness that sleep does not fix. That is not laziness. That is spiritual exertion. Growth uses energy. Transformation costs something internally. Your body feels what your spirit is processing. God is preparing you to move without proving. Many chosen ones were trained by life to over-explain, overgive, and overperform just to be accepted. God is untraining that. He is teaching you to be rooted instead of reactive, calm instead of defensive, certain instead of anxious. That is preparation for leadership, whether you realize it or not. Leadership does not always mean a platform. Sometimes it means being the stable one in chaos, the calm one in confusion, the faithful one when others give up. God prepares chosen ones to carry emotional and spiritual weight without collapsing under it. You may feel like God is working slowly. He is not. He is working thoroughly. Another thing God is preparing you for is discernment without judgment. You are learning to see clearly without becoming hard, to recognize truth without losing compassion. That balance is rare, and it cannot be rushed. It is formed through reflection, not reaction. Notice how you are responding differently to things that once triggered you. Notice how certain arguments no longer pull you in. That is not indifference. That is mastery. God is teaching you when to engage and when to remain still. This is preparation for influence. You are also being prepared to trust timing over impulse. Chosen ones often have strong intuition, but intuition without patience becomes anxiety. God is teaching you to wait even when you sense movement, to trust that what is unfolding does not require you to force it. Let me reassure you here. If God is preparing you, it means something worth preparing for is coming. God does not invest this level of refinement into outcomes that are small, but He also does not reveal everything at once. That would overwhelm you, so He prepares you in silence. You may wonder why others seem to move ahead faster, why their lives look more active. That comparison is not helpful. God prepares each vessel differently. Some are built for speed, others for endurance. You are being shaped for longevity, and longevity requires depth. God is also preparing you to release what cannot follow you. Some relationships, some identities, some expectations. Not everything you carry now is meant for the next season. This release can feel like grief, even when it is necessary. Allow yourself to feel it without questioning the process. Chosen one, preparation is not about perfection, it is about alignment. You do not need to be flawless, you need to be faithful. God corrects what He calls, He does not discard it. Right now, God is preparing you to move with confidence that does not need validation, to speak with authority that does not need volume, to stand firm without becoming rigid. That kind of strength comes from being rooted in Him, not in outcomes. And let me tell you something important. The fact that you are still seeking God in this season, still listening, still reflecting, still trusting, even when clarity feels partial, tells me that the preparation is working. You are becoming someone who can carry what you once prayed for. So do not rush this season. Do not resent it. Do not misunderstand it. What God is preparing you for requires the version of you that is being shaped right now, not the version you were before. Stay steady, stay faithful, stay grounded. The preparation is not delaying your purpose, it is protecting it. Chosen one, let me take this deeper, because this is where many lose patience and misjudge what God is doing. Preparation also involves detachment, and detachment can feel like emptiness if you don't understand it. God is teaching you how to stand without leaning on people, outcomes, or constant reassurance. Not because those things are wrong, but because they cannot be your foundation. You may notice that you no longer react emotionally the way you used to. Situations that once caused anxiety now feel distant. This does not mean you care less. It means you are learning emotional authority. God is preparing you to respond instead of react, and that shift is crucial for what comes next. There is also a quiet rewiring happening in how you measure success. Earlier, progress meant movement, visibility, or approval. Now progress feels like peace, clarity, and restraint. That is not regression, that is maturity. God is training you to recognize growth by stability rather than stimulation. Another part of preparation is learning how to hold responsibility without bitterness. Many chosen ones have been overlooked, misunderstood, or undervalued. God does not ignore that pain. He heals it so it does not poison your future authority. A wounded leader transfers wounds. A healed one transfers strength. That healing takes time. You may also be learning how to say no without guilt, to step back without explanation, to protect your energy without apology. These are not selfish traits. They are boundaries formed through wisdom. God is preparing you to steward yourself well, because what you carry later will require emotional endurance. Let me speak to the waiting again. Waiting is not passive. It is active restraint. It is choosing not to force doors. It is trusting that God opens what no one can shut. This kind of waiting builds confidence that is not shaken by delay. It builds faith that does not depend on speed. You are also being prepared to walk without constant signs. Yes, God uses signs to reassure you now, but He does not want you dependent on them forever. This season is teaching you how to trust His presence even when affirmation is quiet. That is deep faith. Notice how your prayers have changed. They are less demanding, more honest, less about control, more about alignment. That shift is preparation. God listens closely to prayers shaped by surrender. Another thing God is preparing you for is clarity in chaos. The world does not slow down when your assignment begins. If anything, noise increases. God is teaching you how to remain centered regardless of external pressure. How to stay anchored when others panic. This is not accidental training, it is intentional design. And here is something I want you to hear clearly. God is not preparing you because you are lacking. He is preparing you because you are capable. Capacity is expanded before responsibility is released. God enlarges the vessel before He fills it. You may feel stretched, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. That stretching is not meant to break you, it is meant to make room. So when this season feels heavy, Remind yourself of this truth. Heavy preparation leads to meaningful purpose. God does not rush what must last. Remain faithful in the unseen work. Stay grounded in prayer, not performance. Trust that every quiet adjustment God is making inside you will soon support what He is about to do through you. The preparation you are in right now is not a pause, it is positioning. The emotional weight chosen ones carry and how God heals it. Chosen one, this is the part many never speak about, but I will speak it plainly, because silence has carried this weight long enough. Being chosen is not light. It is not glamorous. It is not easy. It carries an emotional weight that most people will never understand, and that misunderstanding is often where the deepest pain lives. Chosen ones feel deeply, not because they are weak, but because they are aware. You sense shifts in people. You absorb emotional atmospheres. You notice when something is off, even when no one says a word. That level of perception is not accidental, but it does come with a cost. You often feel tired without a clear reason, emotionally heavy without a visible cause, restless even when things seem fine. That is because your spirit is processing more than you consciously realize. You carry questions you cannot always voice, responsibility you did not ask for, insight that separates you from easy companionship. And over time, that becomes weight. Many chosen ones learned early how to be strong because weakness was not safe. You learned how to endure quietly, how to carry pain without complaint, how to survive emotionally without support. That strength kept you alive, but it also taught you to internalize too much. God sees that. Let me say something that may bring relief. God does not confuse endurance with healing. Just because you survived something does not mean He expects you to keep carrying it. Survival was necessary then. Healing is necessary now. Chosen ones often struggle with loneliness not because they lack people, but because their inner world is different. Conversations stay on the surface while your soul lives in depth. You long to be understood without having to explain yourself. That longing, when unmet, creates quiet grief. God does not dismiss that grief. Another weight chosen ones carry is guilt. Guilt for needing space. Guilt for saying no. Guilt for outgrowing people. Guilt for not fitting expectations placed on them. You may feel responsible for others' emotions, as if your peace somehow causes their discomfort. That is not your burden. God heals chosen ones by slowly teaching them where responsibility ends. He separates compassion from obligation. He teaches you that loving others does not require sacrificing yourself. This healing does not happen overnight. It happens gently, through boundaries, through silence, through learning to sit with your own emotions without judging them. God does not rush emotional healing because rushing creates avoidance, not resolution. You may notice that God allows you to feel emotions more fully now instead of distracting you from them. That can feel uncomfortable, even frightening, but feeling is part of healing. What is acknowledged can be released. What is suppressed stays heavy. Chosen one, your emotions are not enemies, they are messengers. Another deep wound many chosen ones carry is the fear of being too much, too intense, too sensitive, too deep. That fear often comes from being misunderstood repeatedly, from being told to tone it down, from learning that authenticity made others uncomfortable. God does not heal that by making you smaller. He heals it by teaching you discernment, when to share, when to guard, when to speak, when to remain quiet. Your depth is not a flaw. It is a calling that must be stewarded wisely. God also heals through rest, not just physical rest, but emotional permission to stop striving. Chosen ones often feel like they must always be improving, always growing, always becoming. God interrupts that mindset by inviting you into stillness. Stillness is not stagnation, it is restoration. You may notice that God removes certain distractions during healing seasons. Less noise, less social engagement, less stimulation. That can feel like loss at first, but it is actually space. Space for your nervous system to reset. Space for your heart to catch up with your mind. Space for God to speak without competition. Healing also involves reframing your past. God does not erase what hurt you. He redeems it. He shows you how it shaped your discernment, your compassion, your resilience. He helps you see that nothing you endured was wasted, even when it felt unnecessary. Chosen one, you did not suffer because you were forgotten. You endured because you were being formed. God heals emotional weight by replacing self-reliance with trust. Many chosen ones learned to depend on themselves because others were unreliable. God gently invites you to unlearn that, to lean on Him without fear of collapse, to trust that you are held even when you let go. This process can feel vulnerable. You may feel exposed emotionally, but vulnerability in God's presence is safe. He does not exploit it. He covers it. Another part of healing is learning how to receive. Chosen ones are excellent givers, listeners, supporters, encouragers, but receiving feels uncomfortable. You may minimize compliments, reject help, downplay your needs. God heals this by placing people and moments in your life that challenge that pattern. Receiving is not weakness, it is humility. God also heals by teaching you how to forgive without reconnecting. Forgiveness releases you. Reconnection requires wisdom. You are allowed to heal without reopening wounds. Peace does not demand access. Chosen one, if you feel emotionally lighter some days and heavy on others, that is normal. Healing is not linear. Some days you feel strong, some days you feel tender. God is present in both. Strength does not impress Him more than honesty. And here is the reassurance I want you to carry forward. God is not waiting for you to be emotionally perfect before He uses you. He heals as He leads. He restores as He guides. Your sensitivity does not disqualify you. It qualifies you for compassion-led purpose. The emotional weight you carry is being transformed into wisdom. The pain you endured is being refined into empathy. The loneliness you felt is becoming discernment. God heals chosen ones not by removing depth, but by anchoring it in peace. And chosen one, peace is coming, not because life will be easy, but because you will no longer carry what was never meant to be yours alone. Chosen one, let me add this final layer gently, because this is where healing becomes real and lasting. God also heals emotional weight by retraining your inner dialogue. Many chosen ones carry a quiet inner voice that questions their worth, their timing, or their progress. Not because it is true, but because it was learned. God replaces that voice slowly, not with condemnation, but with truth spoken through peace. You may notice that your thoughts are becoming softer, less harsh, less demanding. That is healing. God is teaching you how to speak to yourself the way He speaks to you, with patience, clarity, and compassion. This inner shift changes everything. Another part of healing is grief for the version of yourself that had to grow up too fast. The one who carried responsibility early. The one who learned independence before comfort. God allows you to mourn that quietly, without shame. Grief does not mean weakness, it means honesty. God also heals by restoring joy without guilt. Many chosen ones feel uneasy when things feel good, as if calm is temporary or undeserved. God is teaching you that peace is not a pause before pain. It is a state you are allowed to live in. You are learning how to exist without bracing for impact. And finally, healing happens when you stop asking, "What is wrong with me?" and start accepting, "This is how God shaped me." Your depth, your sensitivity, your awareness, they are not flaws to fix. They are tools to steward. Chosen one, God is not healing you so you can become someone else. He is healing you so you can become fully yourself, without the weight that once made that feel impossible. How you should respond when God sends signs through the heavens. Chosen one, this is where wisdom matters. Signs are not given to impress you. They are given to guide you. And guidance requires response, not reaction. Many people misstep not because they lack signs, but because they respond from fear instead of faith. God is teaching you something deeper here. The first and most important response is stillness. When God sends signs through the heavens, He is not asking you to rush into action. He is asking you to pause, to breathe, to remember who is in control. Stillness creates space for discernment. Without it, signs become noise. God does not speak to agitated minds. He speaks to settled hearts. You respond correctly when you resist the urge to overinterpret. Chosen ones often have active minds, and activity can turn into anxiety if unchecked. Signs are not puzzles to solve. They are confirmations to receive. When God wants action, He brings clarity. When clarity is absent, your assignment is trust. Another correct response is prayer, not analysis. Prayer aligns you. Analysis exhausts you. Prayer does not demand answers. It invites presence. When you see a sign, speak to God simply. Thank Him. Ask for peace. Ask for alignment. Do not demand explanations. God responds best to humility, not pressure. Let me say this firmly. Chasing signs leads to distraction. Receiving signs leads to peace. God does not want you scanning the heavens constantly. He wants you grounded in obedience where you are. Signs are meant to support faith, not replace it. Your response should also include grounding yourself in what you already know is right. Integrity, discipline, kindness, faithfulness. Signs never contradict God's character. If a sign leads you away from truth, accountability, or peace, it has been misinterpreted. Another wise response is patience. God does not operate on urgency. He operates on timing. If a sign stirs impatience, that impatience is not from Him. True divine signs calm you, even when they point toward change. You respond well when you resist comparison. Do not look at how others interpret signs. God speaks to each chosen one personally. What resonates with you may not resonate with them. That does not make either of you wrong. It makes the relationship personal. Another important response is grounding in Scripture. Not to decode the sign, but to anchor your spirit. Scripture keeps revelation rooted. Without grounding, signs can inflate ego or create fear. With grounding, signs become reminders of God's consistency. Let me address something many chosen ones struggle with: the fear of missing something. This fear creates pressure. Pressure creates missteps. God does not test you by hiding instructions. If something is required of you, He will make it clear through conviction, not anxiety. Trust that. You also respond wisely by staying emotionally regulated. Signs do not require emotional highs or lows. They require awareness. If you feel emotionally overwhelmed, step back. God speaks best when your nervous system is calm. Another correct response is gratitude. Gratitude keeps your heart open without making you dependent. When you thank God for reassurance without demanding more, you remain aligned. Let me correct another misunderstanding. You are not meant to talk about every sign. Discernment includes privacy. Some confirmations are for you alone. Sharing too much can dilute clarity. Protect what God is revealing. Respond by continuing your daily responsibilities. Faithfulness in ordinary things matters more than excitement over signs. God does not reward obsession. He honors consistency. You may also need to respond by resting. Some signs come because God knows you are tired. They are reassurance, not instruction. Rest without guilt.